As a priest, I hear a lot of people's confessions. I hear a lot of their sins. I'm sure you probably knew that. And of all my time of being a priest and hearing confessions, I actually want to talk about what I learned from kind of the most two intense confessions I've ever heard. But yeah, basically these men just confessing these really serious sins, just a really messed up life, just a really messy life. And although they were confessing all these serious things, I don't know if they just felt really ashamed, but it was just so clear to me how good their hearts were. So as they brought to confession all this mess of their lives, all the things they had done, what really impacted me was just the goodness in that, the goodness in their hearts. And God delights in humility. God delights in when we're sorry. And so I'll talk about different Bible passages that talk about that, but this is something that I really experienced that, wow, although this person is very, very broken, although they've done these really sinful, horrible things, there was just such a presence of humility. There wasn't a sense of like worrying about what I was thinking. They weren't trying to sugarcoat what they had done. They weren't making excuses. And so I was just so impacted by that because it's tempting for us who maybe don't do as serious things to try to like sugarcoat things and say, well, I'm getting better at this, or try to explain some of the situation. But it was just such just an honest and authentic ownership of what they had done. And there was just not a speck of pride in them or their confession that I could see. So for a lot of people, there can be this fear of, what is the priest going to think of me? Is he going to judge me? Is he going to think differently of me? I'm telling you, I thought so highly. I wasn't approving of the sins they had done, but I thought so highly of and I was really inspired. It wasn't just like I had a good opinion of them. I was inspired. I was deeply touched. I was impacted just by their honesty. And so in terms of people like worrying, what is the priest going to think of me? The most important part isn't what you did or what you didn't do. It's really just how humble and honest can you be? I'm speaking for myself, and I know many other priests. It's inspiring to see people just fully brace what they've done and say it in humility and repentance. There's different Bible passages that talk about this. So one is just the prodigal son. So I'm sure you've heard of the prodigal son. I'm not going to fully explain it now, but you have the younger son who, in this parable, who, sins, lives a very simple lifestyle, wastes his father's inheritance. He comes back and the father sees him, has compassion, runs to him, embraces him, kisses him, throws this big giant celebration and party. So God delights when we turn from our sin and come back to him. Jesus talks about a different parable of two people praying in the temple. One was this Pharisee who said, hey, I do everything right. I pay all my tithes. I obey all the rules. And there's this other tax collector who beats his breast, and he wouldn't raise his eyes to heaven. He says, be merciful to me, a sinner. And Jesus says he's the one that goes home justified. So he's the holy one. There's another time where Jesus says to the Pharisees, he says, tax collectors and prostitutes are entering the kingdom of heaven before you. Like, that is shocking. Tax collectors and prostitutes. It's like, how is that happening? How are these people entering the kingdom of heaven before these religious leaders? And it's because these tax collectors, these prostitutes, these other sinful people, they know they're sinners. They have humility. They have an authentic repentance. And so the Pharisees have a lot of good behavior, a lot of good religious obedience, but they don't have this disposition of the heart. And so that's captured well in this passage where Jesus was talking about the two people praying in the temple. There's that tax collector who's beating his breast, saying, be merciful to me, a sinner. Holiness, first and foremost, and fundamentally, is about a disposition of the heart. And this is something that St. Therese of Lisieux has said as well. And we can focus, again, on external behaviors. And, eventually, if someone's walking in relationship with God, eventually they should become free of serious sin. But what holiness is, what is truly pleasing to God, is really just this humility, this acknowledgement that I have sinned, I need God's mercy. Of course, there's a good thief who just right before he dies, he just tells Jesus to remember him when he comes into his kingdom. And we believe that this guy is now a saint. And so he didn't really do a lot of good things. He just had this faith, humility, and repentance. And so, I just share that as a priest, that when people have serious confessions, when people especially say things that are hard to confess, it just inspires me so much. And so it's really the opposite of what people would think. People are like, well, Father's going to think less of me. No, I think more of someone, well, it's not really about what I think, but I think more of someone, I'm more inspired, I'm more delighted by people that can have true humility, that can say the things that are hard to say. If you want to make a priest day, if you want to inspire him, I encourage you to be bold in your confession. You don't have to share every little detail of every little thing you've done, but just to be bold and honest about what you've done, to not sugarcoat it, just to have full ownership and to confess those things that are hard to confess. And it will not make the priest upset. It will make the priest inspired by your generosity in the confession. So I hope all of this inspires you to go to confession. So thank you for watching or listening. God bless.